Welcome to today's explainer. Look, if we're trying to figure out what actually drives a business's long-term value, we really have to look past the usual financial statements. Don't get me wrong, backward-looking accounting is important, but those numbers, they often completely miss the actual lifeblood of an organization, which is, of course, the customer. So today, we're unpacking the absolute most important customer-related, non-financial measures, drawing straight from our source material on balanced scorecards and performance metrics. Let's take a super quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going to be hitting 6 key areas: valuing the customer, the nuance of retention, the purchase volume scenario, defection and churn, the customer metric ecosystem, and finally, a review and exam traps to watch out for.
All right, jumping right into section 1, valuing the customer. You might think that tracking customer metrics is just this universally accepted, fundamental best practice that absolutely every company does. But the reality? It's actually much more strategic than that. I want to ask you a kind of counterintuitive question, and really keep this one in mind because it is a classic trap. Does every single business actually need to track customer retention? Now, your gut instinct is probably screaming, yes, of course they do. But interestingly, our source text challenges that assumption head on. See, on one hand, we have industries where retention is super easy to measure. Think cellular phone plans, your internet provider, or insurance policies. For them, retention literally is the foundation of the business model. But on the flip side, the text explicitly points out that entities with zero interaction with the ultimate end user, like commodity providers, they get absolutely no value from tracking customer retention. None. If your business model doesn't actually have an ongoing, trackable relationship with an end user, pouring your resources into retention metrics, that's just a complete waste of time. Moving right along to section 2, the nuance of retention. So first off, we need our core definition. The customer retention rate is simply the degree to which customers maintain a relationship with the business. Now, on the surface, that sounds incredibly straightforward, right? Just counting heads. But I promise you, actually applying this definition in the real corporate world is so much more complicated than that. Management can't just wave a wand and say, okay, team, track retention. It doesn't work like that. They have to set strict parameters first. Specifically, you need 2 things. First, you have to determine the exact time period you're assessing. And second, you need to define the action, meaning what exactly constitutes retention for your specific operations. Take an insurance company, for example. They can easily define retention as the specific act of a customer renewing their policy every 6 months. It's a clear, binary action tied to a strict timeline. Without those 2 parameters locked in, your data is just going to be completely useless noise. Which brings us to section 3, the purchase volume scenario. Let's look at where the theory actually hits the real world. Imagine you have this massive business-to-business client. Historically, they've bought an average of $100 million worth of product from you every single month. But suddenly, their purchase volume just drops off a cliff. Now, they're only buying $20 million a month. So here's the million-dollar question. Is this customer officially retained? I mean, they haven't completely walked out the door, so they aren't technically lost. But an 80% drop in revenue is a massive, structural hit to your bottom line. This gray area perfectly highlights why defining those exact parameters of retention is so crucial before you even start calculating. If your definition of retention is just, hey, they made a purchase of any size within a 30-day window, then yeah, technically they're retained. But if your definition requires maintaining a specific volume or a specific share of wallet, well, then they might be classified very differently. Your metric absolutely must match the strategic reality of your business. Okay, let's look at the flip side in section 4, defection and churn. Customer defection, which is more commonly known as the churn rate, is basically the direct negative counterpart to retention. It's simply the rate at which customers stop their relationship with your business. The text notes this is specifically common in businesses that offer defined services. Think about your video streaming subscriptions or your internet service. You're either paying for it, which is retention, or you cancel it completely, which is defection or churn. It is an absolutely vital pulse-checking metric for literally any recurring revenue model. Let's map all of this out in section 5, the customer metric ecosystem. Let's lay this out on a timeline to create a simple mental model. On day 1, your primary metric is customer satisfaction. And the text really emphasizes this. Satisfaction is a crucial leading indicator. It actually helps predict future financial performance and future retention levels. Because if they're happy on day 1, well, that leads us right to month 6, which is the action phase. This is where we measure retention versus churn. Basically, do they stay or do they go? And finally, we get to year 1, which is the result, loyalty and referrals. Understanding this chronological flow is just a tremendously helpful way to map out how all these non-financial measures actually interact. Expanding on those final outcomes, our text gives us a quick, rapid-fire look at 3 more key metrics. First up is market share percentage, which just tells you how much of the total market you actually command. Second is customer loyalty, and I want to pause here because the text uses a very specific definition. Loyalty can be measured by the percentage of a customer's total spending that's captured by your business. Basically, what's your share of their wallet? And third, customer referrals. This is a super powerful indicator of overall customer sentiment. Think about it. If a customer is actually willing to risk their own personal reputation to recommend you to a friend or a colleague, that's pretty much the ultimate proof of satisfaction. Wrapping things up with Section 6, Review and Exam Traps. There's a quote directly from the text that I absolutely love. It says, "Profit-based metrics do not address all perspectives required to manage a business so as to maximize shareholder wealth." Basically, standard GAAP accounting is completely blind to whether your customers actually like you or not. Right? A company could totally slash its customer service budget to make their current quarter profits look amazing. Financially, on paper, it looks like a massive win. But a balanced scorecard that tracks these non-financial metrics, that acts as your early warning system. It's going to reveal a dangerous long-term decline in customer satisfaction and the massive spike in churn that standard accounting is just blissfully ignoring. So, I want to leave you with this final thought, just to apply today's explainer directly to your own world. Based on your specific industry, the products you sell, and how you interact with your end users, how exactly should your company define retention? What's your time period? And what is the exact action that proves a customer is actually staying? Taking the time to strictly define those parameters is the first, absolute vital step to managing your long-term success. Keep learning, keep analyzing, and use these metrics to uncover the true value of your customers.